In our last episode, we spent the weekend with Liziwe at her guest house in the township of Gugulethu, just out of Cape Town in South Africa. And if you want a new take on township life, I suggest you get out there yourself. When I consider our history as a species, human beings have been nomadic scavenging beach bums and bush babies for far longer than we've lived in houses or had running water. If it squirted, squeaked or breathed, it invariably ended up being slapped on the coals and cooked in the great outdoors. And it's only in the last couple of 100 years or so that we've forgotten the knowledge that made us the most successful hunter-gatherers and gastronomic kings and queens on the planet. My name is Justin Bonello and welcome to Cooked. So it's a very good morning for the last episode of our second season. Right now I'm standing on the rump of Lion's Head, specifically because in the background is the scene of our last episode, Robben Island. So if you buckle up, let us drive down the hill, jump on the ferry. We're going to take you along for an incredible experience. As the crow flies, the trip from the mainland to Robben Island is probably no more than a couple of kilometers. The boat ride, even less, half an hour. But the amazing thing is when you get to the island, you have a completely different perspective of Cape Town. When you come to Robben Island as a tourist, generally all you have to have is like a backpack and a bottle of water. We have to have all of this. So Darren's gone off to organize us a vehicle that we can move all our stuff around the island, because we don't like jump on the tourist route and do the 3-hour tour, jump back on the boat. We're here for the whole day, possibly the whole weekend. This is Sandile, who
is the celebrity of the show?
He's our Robben Island representative, so he's our fixer. He'll organize everything for us. So he organized that we can stay here in the old English commissioner's house.
Let's first deal with the keys. You number 5 on the queue.
How come I can't choose you just handing out rooms? What happens if I don't have a view?
No,
hey?
Change it.
In recent history, Robben Island was where the apartheid government used to incarcerate the political prisoners, including our ex-president Nelson Mandela, known as Madiba. And I feel quite privileged to be able to show you a perspective of Robben Island that no one normally gets to see. Now, the prisoners on Robben Island were fed such a terrible diet that they would often try and supplement their diet with food from the coast. And this was done at great peril to themselves, because if the warders caught them, they would have been in massive amounts of trouble. Because Robben Island is a World Heritage Site, I can't make a fire on the ground like I normally would have. So hence, the tray. And that's so I can make a really simple meal. 3 ingredients: fire, salt water, and crayfish. Now all that's left with these crayfish to do is chuck them on the fire. And that's it. The only thing I'm going to fetch, a little bit of salt water, but they're going to cook right here. And if you come a little bit closer, you can see how the crayfish are already starting to change color. See that there? And if you poke inside, you'll see the meat start changing from translucent to white opaque. and then they're cooked. Look at that. They're already done. Perfectly. The sea cockroach has never tasted so succulent.
Ever read the for sale sign that's hanging around the world?
Waking up in the morning and watching the sunrise is a universal feel-good. Waking up on Robben Island and watching the sunrise, that's something extra special. Right, for breakfast this morning I'm making a breakfast casserole. The prisoners that would have originally eaten on Robben Island didn't get anything like this. They would have got like literally 6 ounces, less than a cup of porridge in the morning. If you check out the menu on your screen, this is what the apartheid government expected the prisoners to eat and still do a hard day's labour. It was just another way to try and break human spirit. And they didn't succeed. Breakfast casserole, straightforward. First thing we've got to do is fry up this Garth. You're the flat top specialist. Garth has just been promoted to the chef of his restaurant. When I first met him, he was a lackey, and then he was promoted to sous chef. A little bit of oil there. Is that all good, huh? So the first part about making my casserole is I've got to fry up about 2 kilos of Morris's sausage. Now this stuff is halal, which means that this meat hasn't been in contact with pork and that the animals have been humanely killed. I think I can start the rest of this now. So, we've got 24 eggs here, 2 kilos of sausage, a whole loaf of bread that's been chopped up, 500 milliliters of cream, and another liter of milk in here. So should we start breaking these up? Just going to add a little bit of... A what? Just going to add some black pepper, and then a couple of hits of some Maldon salt, and then some mustard powder. Now this doesn't have to be whisked up until it's all fluffy, it's just to break the egg yolk into the albumin. And I'm going to add some cream in a couple of seconds. Madiba, our ex-president, in his book Long Walk to Freedom, wrote that they served a balanced diet on Robben Island. It was a balanced diet between the unpalatable and the inedible. Okay. Add a bit of cream in here. Yeah. Do you know what happens to chefs? Most of them are alcoholics or drug addicts. That's why I'm just a cook.
With a hangover.
And that's a normal thing for cooks as well. They tend to have hangovers all the time. I think it's because they end up cooking until late hours. You're all amped, you don't know what to do with yourself. So you end up going out for a tipple. Okay, I think that's about ready. I just want to get some baking trays. Right, now that our sausage is cooked, I'm just going to start letting it cool down. I've turned off the flat top. Garth, I need you to chop some garlic for me. You can use my knife. First part, to put about 1/3 of your mixture, or the 1/3 of this tray, is to pour in your egg and cream and spice mixture. I'm going to put some slices of bread in here. And you can take the sausage out the casing if you want. I quite like that. And you're just going to break a layer of sausage all over the bread. I'll chop the garlic. You can carry on layering for me. almost ready, just going to make one more. That's good. So we're going to let these bake for like 15 to 20 minutes, and then I'm going to grate some cheese on top and grill it, and then we're going to have breakfast. A little bit later on, crab curry. We're getting out of there.
Look at me with those gold eyes. No, I can sit around and have a little fight.
5 minutes, breakfast is finally up.
Just not waste away.
That is an unpleasant feeling, eh?
You're winning this battle and running this game, but lack of resistance, I'm sure will make you tame. Oh, acting angry, we'll waste away tonight.
So we're on our way to do a prison tour with Patrick Matanjani, who was incarcerated on Robben Island for 20 years. He was here for longer than Nelson Mandela was. Madiba only spent 18 years on Robben Island, but was in prison for a total of 27 years. And it's quite interesting because I think we're going to get a good first-hand experience from someone who was on the island.
This is my cell. When I started to enter this prison, I was come to another section and then they brought me here.
The apartheid government did everything in their power to turn Robben Island into a living hell for the political prisoners. The prisoners, in turn, made Robben Island their university. And in fact, a lot of the prisoners that came here unable to read or write left with university degrees. And if that's not a triumph of human spirit, I don't know what is. But Patrick, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Eh?
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah. You
you
must
very much,
always
Patrick.
come here when you've got time.
I want to come spend a weekend
Yeah,
with you, Patrick.
Exactly. Thank you.
So why don't you walk on that easy road they shout? Well, I know it's easy, but I know it's the end that counts.
It's the last meal of our last episode of our second season, and I should be sad, but I'm not really. You know, I'm still on Robben Island. I have a point of view that so few people ever get to have. We're at a place called Alpha 1. It's where the warders used to come for a little bit of R&R in the prison. They would make a lovely braai, watch the sunset. We're going to do the same thing. Ironically, at the same time they were doing that, prisoners were locked up in 2x2 cells, and I guess you can see the juxtaposition. I'm going to take you to where they used to braai. I'm making crab curry. It's Rosh's mom's recipe, and it really is sublime. I've eaten it before, explodes all over you when you eat. We're going to add a little bit of crayfish as well. Yeah, so you want to come check it out? Behind me is the view the warders would have had when they were making their braai, their traditional South African barbecue, while the prisoners were locked up. And I guess you can see why. It's a magnificent view. And you know, as much as the warders were on this island supposedly in charge of the prisoners, they were trapped here as well. So I guess this is how they made it bearable for themselves and what they had to do. Told you, I'm making Roshni's mom's curry. Really, the trick behind a good curry is all the different spices and the quantities thereon. The first part we need to do Let's get a pot on the go. Now I'm cooking for 20-odd people tonight, so I'm going to quadruple up the recipe that Roshni's mom gave me. She said 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Well, she would use oil, I'll use olive oil. So this is going to be about 12 tablespoons. So we'll stand here for a little while and we will pour. This is a crucial part of the crab curry because the oil is what's going to carry all the different flavors around. We've got cumin, cardamom, cinnamon, garlic. That looks about right. But the first part we have to put in and some cinnamon sticks. If you're only cooking for 6 people, 2 cinnamon sticks. I've got 8. Fresh curry leaves. I've got about 20 curry leaves. And 12 or so star aniseed, so named for their shape. And then 4 onions. Now, if you could smell, you'd smell the aniseed, the curry. So while that's frying up, garlic. And then about 16 cardamom seeds. Now you just let this swirl this around until the onions go translucent, and then we're ready for the next step. So once the onions have gone translucent, you've got to add the masala and the cumin. I've got about 9 tablespoons of masala and just 6 teaspoons of the cumin. Now the important thing here is not to let your pot be too hot because you don't want to burn this now. So give it a quick stir. And then we're going to add some tomatoes. That, how the color's already starting to come out of the curry. And the smell. Right, next step. Now, tomatoes are out of season in Cape Town right now because what I would really use is like 4 very ripe tomatoes and cut them up and chuck them in. I don't have ripe tomatoes, so I'm using the next best thing. And when you put them in, break them apart roughly with your hands. We're going to put in 4 tins of whole peeled tomatoes, sauce and all. Now I'm just going to add 4 tins of tomato paste. Right, now I've just got to put in 6 tablespoons of sugar, some salt to taste, and half the coriander that I'm using. I'm going to use 4 bushels. So I'm going to chuck all of this in as well. Starting off with the sugar, and then salt to taste. I'd rather people salt their food afterwards, so I'm not going to put too much in, but just enough to get the flavors going. Fresh coriander, dhania. Now Cape Town has a very rich tradition, culinary tradition. Over the last sort of 300 years, we've had influences from Java, from the Middle East, from Africa, the Dutch, the Portuguese, and this is one of those meals that has most of those influences in. Okay, so now I'm just going to leave this to cook up and wait for the fat to get on top. And then we're going to start adding in the crabs and the crayfish. So I'm going to have a with my friends. Check, we've got a visitor. We've been pilfering stuff from one of the restaurants on the island. Not restaurant, it looks after, it's called the Mess. It's a kitchen that looks after all the people who live on Robben Island. And Tandeka, who's sneaking up there, she's been a star and helped us sort everything out. Tandeka, can we get you a glass of wine?
Absolutely, please, with pleasure.
Garth, can you get that? They're in the cooler box down there, in the shady spots. Come and join us. We'll introduce you to everyone in just a minute. Now that's on the go, I have to prepare the crayfish and get the crab ready to chuck them in the pot. We euthanize these. That means we put them to death. How did we put them to death? We put them into fresh water. You can also just freeze them. They don't make funny noises or squeaky sounds. We're gonna do that. We're gonna have to go down to beach and rinse them off. Do that first and you'll see why. Now, I don't know if you can see it yet, but the oil's risen to the surface of the curry. Now we're ready to add in the butter. That looks like about 12 tablespoons. Some fresh coriander. And then you can add your crabs. Give everything a good twirl around now, and you're really gonna have to dig around and get all those flavors all over the place. Lid on, let it come to the boil. Once it does that, 20 more minutes and we're ready to eat. And I think it's now time to start cooking my crayfish straight on the fire, like a little entree. Little snacker, your entree, your horse duvery. Check at that. Perfectly done. And nothing added to them. So it's been about half an hour. The tomato sauce has bubbled up. And when it comes to food, we hope that everything's ready. Look at that. I think I'll have to have a quick taster first, huh? And look at that beautiful meat inside. It's ready.
Just a minute out of my mind. I try, scream and shout, feelings left me tongue-tied. So this is finished and we're waiting on the next ride. I try to figure out reasons, hit the sidelines. It's too late, things left better unsaid. It's too late, things left better unsaid. So take a minute, just a minute out of my mind. A sinking feeling playing out. Moving on lately like you said all along. Yeah, we're moving on lately, now we got it.
That's the end of our second season, and all that's left for me to do is say a big thank you to all the guys on Robben Island and everyone else who made the filming of this series possible. Without you, I would never have been able to turn my dream into reality, so I hope that I've inspired you to go out and follow yours.
That's how you do it. Cut that in your bloopers. Excuse my language. Never guess I'm going to the restaurant and we laugh, eh? Fucking hell. Sorry.
I'm crying, James.
Oh, no.